Perfect. So, hello, my guys. Welcome to the Website Intelligence Podcast, where we talk about marketing, business, life, and a bit of analytics as well, with all the good and the bad out there. I am Dragos. I'm here with my colleague Matt, and I'll let him introduce our guest today, which he knows way better than me, as they were colleagues before. So, Matt, please, you have the mic.
Yeah, so really happy to be joined today by Ignacio Aguirre. I hope I pronounced that right. I've known you for about 4 years, but I'm sure I'm at least about right. Yeah, we worked together at Talkwalker, known each other for a long time. One of the most creative and technical marketers that I've ever worked with. So really great to have you on here. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much, Dragos and Matt. I'm actually very happy to come here and be able to share some information. I'm not sure if very valuable. I hope so, but at least I know that I can give you a couple of stories. So good. Thank you for having me here, and I'm super glad.
You're very welcome. And like we've said beforehand, it's rare to find somebody who is very kind of geeky, if you don't mind me saying, about all sorts of different marketing elements, but also very creative and has lots of interesting tales as well to tell.
Yeah, no,
One
no,
thing I
that's
don't
good.
think,
But just one thing, you actually said
yeah,
very. I think the way you pronounce my name, for being British, honestly, you pronounce it even better than a Spanish person. So kudos on that.
I'll have a take on it. Is it Aguirre?
No, Ignacio Aguirre.
Yeah.
I won't even try it. Great. Okay. Well, one thing I don't think, despite the fact that we've had endless conversations over the last few years, one thing I don't think we've ever really talked about is like your background. Like, what was there about your kind of upbringing or your kind of younger years that you kind of think about, that made your, kind of first few years on this planet maybe a bit more unique and kind of took you in the direction to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I was born in Mexico City. My parents are Spanish, so I have kind of like a mix. I have the double nationality, so basically both Spanish-speaking countries, so it's pretty fine. But mainly, I lived all my life in Mexico City, except from some years that I went to the U.S. And also I lived abroad in some other times. But I think that the most important part, if you would ask me about why I'm here or what was unique, I think it's probably the day when I received my first computer. This is kind of like I think a groundbreaking moment for myself, because after that I think I spent like 12 hours a day in that computer. Thankfully I got a computer which was kind of like Windows 3.1 or 3.11 or something like this, but it was already the graphical interface. So obviously everyone wanted to come here and play cards, which was not very fun, but it was like a computer, a color computer with a user interface. So I think that was kind of like the moment. My father worked in technology, so I got a computer at a very young age. It wasn't very common; not everyone had one. So for me, I think this was like just like a never-ending source of information. I guess I started drawing in paint, with the mouse, exploring every single like kind of thing that you can in a computer. I think it just drew me towards the computer. So I think for me that was one of the things. I mean, I can remember. I mean, I connected at 14.400 Ks per second, which basically is like so slow. You could probably just like transmit like a text message. It was terrible, and you had this connecting to the internet like
I remember very well.
yeah,
I'm also
or
old
you
enough to remember
or
the dialer.
yeah, and I would also play a lot online gaming in that team. In that time, you would call your friend through the phone from your computer, but if your mother picked up the phone, then there was a problem because you would be playing for 3 hours and then they just disconnect you from the game. So it was very, very, very crazy. But anyways, I think that was like something that really changed my life. The moment I got a computer, I never left the computer. So basically, I got a lot into design. I got a lot into programming, a lot into designing websites with Flash, which then became obsolete. But I was like all the time doing something there. Either it was like reading something, creating something, writing something, programming, but always with a computer.
It's
So
crazy. What year would this have been? Because I think just for like a lot of the younger people, like watching today.
these younger people will be born in this year. I'm afraid to
Like
say it, but it
websites
was
didn't
nine. It
exist.
was 1993, 1994, I guess.
So exactly the year I was born,
There you go. Now you feel me,
1993.
make me feel older.
Likewise.
It wasn't my
But no, it's
intention. Sorry.
interesting though, because I think one thing that I've been thinking about a lot recently is websites generally, when you think about them, you think they've been around forever, and therefore everybody should already understand every single thing about them. But actually, we still, both of us, remember getting our first computer. And so it's not that long ago in the big scheme of things. So yeah, it's an interesting moment to recall.
Yeah, yeah, and you
I
would
was really,
see
I was
now
really
the
curious
CryptoPunks, for
because
example, it's like
uh,
pixelated icons and stuff. But in that time, that was like the rule. I mean, you would see pixelated things, and it's not vintage. It was like what it was, So we've come a long time since like those times, but it's been just crazy to see the evolution of technology and how everything that is running on the background make you have like a real experience in a website. I think that's the most important part. I think websites used to be just a source of information, whereas today now you interact with a website. It's not just a one way. You involve communications, you involve all these customer journeys, but at the end, it's not like just you going and investigating. It will interact with you, and you will find whatever you were trying to achieve, and probably you will be able to get it.
so I was curious because obviously computers was such a dominant in your childhood or during your growing up, and uh, I'm anticipating this a bit your career, but did you always wanted to study computer science, or because I know Matt told me this information, so that's why I know.
Yeah, I actually I think no one except maybe I know like actors like kids that have been acting since five actually know what they want to do. I think this is one of these moments where for me it's incredible that you ask a guy who's like 16, 17 to decide what he wants to do with his life whenever he doesn't have any real experience in the world. But for me, being in the computer, like being inside a computer, being a tech nerd, being all day connected, I mean, I was sure that I had to do something with computers. But if you go back to this time, when I was studying, it was 2000. There was no digital marketing. There was no, I mean, there was designers, but I wanted a little bit more. So I ended up studying computer science, and actually, it was funny because I think it was my third or fourth semester. Even though I was doing great, the head of the engineering department told me like, "Why don't you go to marketing or something else? Like, I don't think you kind of fit in this. Like, you're very different from the other people, not being in a bad way, But he was like, "You're too like outreach, too out there." When everyone was kind of like more introvert. So this actually pushed me to say, "I'm finishing this." So this at the end I wanted to kind of be working somewhere in on the internet side of things. So obviously I started programming very early, like 14, 13, 14 years old. I learned by myself, in the internet, getting information, getting stuff. So obviously this comes in handy whenever you go and you study computer science. So for me, basically I it was 4.5 years of basically understanding and learning all the languages which at that point were used. Basically, I think the Bible for this is the C language or C++, because this is pretty much based, everything else is based on the logic of this language. So I don't know if I wanted to be a computer engineer. And actually, like, if I move a little bit ahead, my first job was programming like a website. It was for Costco. So we were kind of creating the website where providers would be able to get they can book a date to drop merchandising and stuff, because before this they were doing it over the phone, so they had these cancelings, but it was like they would call. I mean, you're talking about old school, like, hey, can I get a meeting? Yeah, give me a second, it's this guy with this book, like, let me see, what about, so at this point, I was in this job for 1 year, and I was just out of it. Even though I enjoyed programming, it was not for me. So basically, when this happened, I moved to a consulting role in an IT company, and here is where everything kind of started, because I was working in consulting, business consulting focused in IT. But the girl who sat beside me was the marketing person for the company. It was it was a
It's
big
like a love
company.
story,
Yeah, no
a
love, but
Korean love story.
exactly. But this girl was pretty much planning an event that they did they just did one big event per year because it was like B2B, very it was like storage, so it's not like something you publish like in a website, or you don't do ads because it's like so sporadic and so niche.
Mm.
And then at some point, I had this semester where I had some marketing classes, and this is where my brain popped up and said, at some point, these tech companies are going to need people who are doing marketing for them and who actually know the technology behind it. And this is when everything came in handy because I was just thinking, I'm seeing these people in marketing trying to explain how a NAS storage system works. And I just saw how they were struggling. They were just like sweating, and they were just trying to explain it to me, And I saw like there's a very big need for people who can actually translate this technology into a sexier way of selling, even if it's storage, because I don't think it can get more boring than selling storage, to be honest. But
I've been
how
in a
can you
few
make
roles
it nicer?
that would challenge it. But no, it's really interesting though, because I never really thought about it like people of our age are almost like the first wave of like digital marketers, right? So we started to learn about computers and websites and things, and then suddenly there was work there, and there was something that you could do there as a career. So it's really kind of, it's interesting to think about things in that way. We're almost like the first people to kind of enter into that space.
Yeah, exactly. And if I'm thinking about it, just to add my 2 cents quickly on it, actually, it's your generation who paved the way for my generation in a way, because I was looking up all the time to people from obviously from older generation, but who at least had some sort of experience before with computer stuff. Obviously, starting from the computer science background, but slightly morphing into the marketing stuff. Pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
no, and then I after 3 years in consulting, I decided to give it a shot and went and do a master's program in marketing. I said, I have the technical part, I have the business side with the consulting. Let's give it a shot. So I actually went to Spain and I did my master's in marketing. And somehow I convinced the people in Universal Pictures to hire me. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me why. I don't remember. It's like a big blur. But actually, I have a funny story.
Straight to Hollywood. You went straight to Hollywood.
Yeah,
Gives
and
it the
and
gap.
it was really funny because I have a when I was in this interview, I remember I went and I wore this suit, and I came from the consulting world, so they asked me to an interview. I come in and everyone's kind of wearing shorts. I was wearing a full suit, and there was this heating. So it was so funny because they asked me like, "Dude, you're sweating. You can take off your jacket," and I'm like, "No, no, no, it's okay." And then they're like, "No, no, no, do it." And I'm like, "No, it's fine." And then it's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Do you want to hear the truth? I didn't iron my shirt, only the parts that are visible." So the guys tell me, "Are you
That's
kidding
a
me?
good shortcut to take.
Can I see it?" And the guys, and I'm like, "Yeah." So I take off the jacket, and they see it's all crunchy in the sides and in the sleeves, like from here up. So he actually goes and gets the sales guy and said, like, "Look at this guy, man. This is incredible." So I ended up getting the job. And to be honest, I was doing the master's program like theoretically and what was coming and what like the new things coming up. But I think I learned more in the job. I mean, pretty much like Universal Pictures is a marketing company, so I think that was my first real marketing experience, and that's where I think everything came into mind because they were talking a lot about being movies. We were actually advertising in YouTube. We were having actually digital ads in shops, like in the e-commerce that existed at that point. We were actually doing some banners and some of this stuff that now seems so like, you know like, it's like normal. This is a given for any company, but at that point it was like the pioneer. So we would actually go to the Google office and it was like, wow, these guys have beer in the fridge. And it was like, oh my god, they're so cool.
It's funny. I think you've already touched upon like probably the biggest like moment of your career when it comes to like the marketing like aspect of things. So that moment where you sat next to the marketing girl and you realized that there was this need for someone like you in this sector. What do you have any kind of like over the course of the last however many years? I guess it's like 15 to 20 years now. Not that I want to give away our ages, but Any other occurrences or any other key things that have happened in those years that you think have really kind of been like those epiphany kind of moments that have really helped to shape the way you approach things?
Yeah, sure. I think one of them, I think in my career, I work in different industries, which definitely have brought different things. I can tell you one of the, I worked for SAP for 1 year. And even though I didn't love it, I can tell you that everything I learned B2B, that was like a master's program in B2B. They're geniuses. So I think I got some small stuff from each one of them. But I think if I would have to choose 2 or 3 moments, one of them would probably be when I joined. I worked for a video game company, so basically we had to restart the website and create the whole e-commerce, and we kind of had to match the experience of having physical stores versus having a website, an e-commerce. And I think when you build something from scratch, that's where you kind of find this. It's not as simple as it looks, it's from previous experiences in Dell and Lenovo, growing the e-commerce part. You realize that even though you invest, it's not just like automatic or how you see everything kind of evolving. But I think at this point, I realized how we were finding these KPIs that would tell us how successful or not a game would be. And I'm talking about maybe the like doing a good video or doing a video about something about the video game and seeing how much engagement it had. This was kind of one of the factors that helped us see how successful we thought the video game would be. So I think you start developing these cross physical versus digital world KPIs that can, because you're looking at this engagement in a post that's telling you how successful a game would be, which is absolutely like crazy madness. And I think the other one would probably be when I worked for Adobe. So basically, I was working in Adobe, heading the marketing strategy. And one, it was amazing because it was a small team. In Mexico City, we were like 27 people, but with a good budget. So it was like working for a well-funded startup, which was amazing. We have a very competitive landscape, which was kind of hard. But I think I didn't know. I knew the part about the creative side of the business, but I didn't know how much stuff they had on the what they call the Experience Cloud. So basically, they have Adobe Analytics, they have a CMS, they have all these automation tools. So I think up until this point, I had actually used a lot of technology, but kind of separated or sometimes exporting things and importing here. But I've never realized how important it is to activate upon data. What does this mean? You have some, for example, we're going to touch analytics, which I think is a very important subject here. But it's amazing how many people actually have advanced analytic tools, but they don't act upon them. So they're basically creating these amazing reports, which go and get archived every month. They don't have an area which is taking these analytics and saying, guys, we have now a lot of people coming from that. Do we actually ship to Germany? Because we like 35% of our traffic comes from Germany. Can we ship to Germany? No. Why not? Why are we not doing it? I mean, let's seize the market. Or how can they understand kind of I think demographics are not used that much. I think now we're going more towards what are like the trends and the type of interests of people, because I think it's now silly and I would even say stupid to say like, oh, we're having this for example, I'm going to give an example, football shirts. So you discriminate and say like girls will not be interested. What, are you kidding me? When Beckham went to the Real Madrid, the most sold t-shirt was by women. So if someone had said let's not do t-shirts for women in Real Madrid, it would have been a total mistake. So I think right now, I think the data and how you cross this data, how you can kind of cluster. And when you start going into more advanced things, for example, if you're using DMS or a tool that can help you with the data of the people coming in, let's say that you have bicycles, you sell bicycles, right? So you have a sale, you have some discounts, so you can cross the people who actually like bikes, cross it with people who react well to sales or to cheap prices. You cross them and you do a campaign. but then you don't have to spam all of your audience, because some people don't actually like bikes. So I think Adobe, and this was a point where I kind of understood, like, wow, I mean, and you realize you were doing some stuff that wasn't the best way, and you were thinking like, oof, if I actually have segmented these things in this way, and I could actually have act upon them in a very specific way, responding these niche markets and really addressing them and talking to them differently, and pretty much even showing a website differently to someone. Like, when you, I think when you go to for example, in some countries, I think Sprint in the US does it. If you come to the website to buy a new phone, it will only show you, it will detect that you have an iPhone 11, and it will not show you anything below it. I think that is smart, because you're probably not gonna move to an iPhone 8 when you have an iPhone 11. So I think this moment at Adobe was one of these moments where kind of I knew a little bit about analytics, I knew about CMS, I knew about marketing automation, I knew about data management platforms. I knew about a lot of stuff, but I had never seen the importance of really having like an asynchronous system that works and can flow throughout all the thing. Because sometimes you see this, like this kind of like Frankensteins that are built. They have this analytics, and then they export them, and they have like a flat file, and then they push it to somewhere else, but at the end nothing gets activated upon this analytics. So I think that was the other point. I think working for them really made me understand of the importance of choosing the right tools that can help you really automate and act upon the information that you're getting.
Yeah. I think again, like saying that again is just highlighting the fact that again, digital marketing is still very young. And so everyone starts to think they have things figured out now. You know, they understand the CMS, they understand the CRM, they get automation, they get segmentation, these kind of things. And then actually it's like, how many insights are you drawing from all of that data? How many insights are you sharing with the product team, the sales team, different teams as well? And like, what kind of beneficial decisions are being made as a result of all of that stuff? And sometimes, like you said, you have all the complex data there, you have all the different tech working, but you're not making those simple decisions that come from all of that that actually end up being the things that drive the business. So again, it's just like, yeah, we still got a lot to learn in terms of really utilizing the tech to have to the kind of best capabilities possible.
Yeah, and in the same time, everything moves so fast in the marketing, in the digital marketing industry, and also in the Martech, and especially now in the TikTok world, where everything it's about trends and everything moves so fast, everything stays relevant for like 2 minutes, and also everything niches out, like Ignacio mentioned. Everything is so niched. Everyone is like the leader of the small niche, and if you actually manage to do this and actually establish yourself as a leader in a small niche, actually that's how success is being perceived, as opposed to maybe a couple of years ago where everything was more about big conglomerates, global monopolies, and so forth. And but because also Matt mentioned some stuff about you. Tell us some more about your current role. Where are you
Uh,
now? Because you have this background, which I really appreciate, having this international background with all different sorts of cultures you experience, and it's really interesting to know where
so
are you
today I
now.
work for a company called ScoreChain. I'm currently the CMO. So basically, we're a crypto compliance company. So I went down the crypto rabbit hole. Now I'm working in marketing, and I think this, if you would ask me, my latest like groundbreaking thing is, I think working for crypto is one of these big enigmas, and for me it was very hard, because I think the toughest thing that I've had is, there is no, for example, if you work for if you're advertising or selling to the car industry, there's a bracket when you're doing ads, you can put car manufacturers, but in crypto there is not. So you need to cross, slice and dice so many filters in order to reach to your right audience, which in my case we started and said, we're going to reach out to these companies, but then we started seeing that we were not getting what we thought. We were not getting the people in my mind that were the ones that were my target market. They are not. So it's been like just a changing strategy, moving and pretty much trying to automate as much as possible. but it's amazing. It's a new, I mean, now it's a new thing, same as it was internet in those days. Now it's blockchain. So there is, just as you said, everything is changing in one simple seconds. As I said, I work in compliance. So the other important and crazy thing is laws are changing by the minute. So now there's like different laws for Europe, there's different laws for Asia, and some countries are adopting a specific regulation, which keeps on changing. So like people have to go through these hoops in order to be able to be compliant and have a license. And what's the problem? When you see, for example, there was a South Korea in September last year. They put a new rule on crypto for AML and compliance. And when they applied the law, from the 64 exchanges that existed in the country, only 24 were able to continue operating until they develop more stuff. So it just changes in a blink of an eye. And as you mentioned, digital marketing is not the same. So right now, if we're talking about analytics, I think a lot of people must be knowing that like that the Google Analytics probably are going to be banned in so many places, right? So this is the type of stuff that you need to actually be learning and understanding everything around the ecosystem, because I think now it's I don't know how to say it, but I think before it was so simple. I can tell you that I mean, they say ignorance is bliss, but I love when I just saw computers. And I knew that, I knew that computers that I was competing against Apple, Dell, Lenovo, in that time Sony, but I had five competitors and I could count them in my hands. But if you see how the world is evolving and how everything is changing, now you're a bank and you're up against fintechs, crypto, digital banks, Facebook, Amazon. Everyone is like it's like being in Australia and you think that everything is going to bite you or sting you. It's like now the competitive landscape became this crazy nightmare where you're just thinking like, okay, so who's my competitor today? Okay, today, but who can be tomorrow? Because
Yeah.
now it's not just the guy in front of your shop. Now it's everyone, and everyone has a shot at it. So with the big techs, you never know, because I would when I was working at Adobe, for example, some of the stuff that we would say is, for example, Google is actually selling advertisement ads or placing ads to banks, right? So they're bidding for words. But what happens when Google becomes a bank and they know exactly what is the best bidding for the keyword, or they know exactly what are the best keywords, and they're probably going to be very good in SEO. The Google Bank is going to have the first place. So there's so much stuff that it's just I think very, very crazy.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I haven't really thought about before, but now you're talking about it, kind of came to mind, was I guess the crypto space is like super flooded as well, because in Martech and in fintech, like you said, there are so many emerging competitors, and the landscape is just becoming crazy. But within crypto, you also have to compete against a lot of the noise, right? Like there's so much noise in crypto, from the not so good side of things. And I guess you also have
Yeah.
to kind of compete and try and find your place within that as well.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and also, I mean, right now, obviously, we're in a crypto winter, and not everything is good in crypto, but the same way, not everything is good in fiat. I think a lot of people are kind of like just crossing crypto, the devil. I think we need to understand, because I can tell you, I mean, yeah, there's scams in crypto, but you cannot even believe, if you saw the numbers of scams in fiat, it's absolutely bigger. So yes, you need to fight a lot through the noise. In my case, since I pretty much provide compliance, I think the very, very big crypto fans don't like us very much. So I mean, we help have a like a safe playground for crypto environment. So I mean, in that point, I think it's good.
All right. Thanks, anyways, for sharing all the information. Pretty interesting stuff up until now. Slowly, we're going to shift in our second segment of the interview, if everything is all right with you as well, which would be information revolving more around website and analytics. So we're going into more practical aspects of things. And we would like to ask you about your current website of ScoreChain, or how you would see the role of the website at your current job.
Yeah, the website is a semi B2B business, is the converting engine. To be honest, and some people might be able to prove me wrong, but I would even say that 95% of the websites in the world are the converting engines, unless I don't know. I don't even know how when it's not going to be a converting engine, because that is the main thing of why you're drawing them into either consuming content, buy one of your services, buy one of your products, whatever they do. So today for me, it's actually been super interesting, because you can start seeing the shifts and all the information that you can gather from people coming to your website. Because today, when I like, if I would say, when I joined the company, pretty much we took a look at the analytics of what was happening, how many visits, conversion rates, bounce rates. I think there are all these KPIs that when you mix them together, you get a logic. I think it's important always to compare yourself against the benchmarks, because some people will say like, wow, you have 3% conversion rate, that's terrible. But if it's B2B and it's a very niche market, it doesn't need to be bad. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. And also, for example, for us, it's very important and very crazy to see how whenever they declare like there's this new regulation in Spain, and you see that just all of a sudden you start receiving all these visits from Spain. So I think for us, basically, and as I said, 95% pretty much is, I think a website, first of all, needs to be very clear and explain what you do in a first glance. I like to say that that the website, if we talk about the 13-inch screen of your laptop, this first part of the 13-inch screen of your laptop is the most expensive real estate that you have, because this is where people will either close it or go further. If you're not clear about what you're offering, they're just gonna leave. And I think this is like where a lot of people fail. They have these amazing products, but they just don't know how to explain them. So in my case, yeah,
just to quickly intervene, just for our audience, maybe to understand it better, are you using your website at the moment to generate leads?
yes, that's
That's the
correct.
main objective? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
It's
We're
funny.
pretty much. Huh?
Sorry, I was just going to say, it's funny you talk about the KPIs and things, because I just remember when you first joined the company, and we were discussing things, and I was also quite new into another kind of fintech role, and we were both discussing websites and how we felt like we had to evolve or kind of transform a little bit the current websites our companies had. And it was basically saying, I mean, look at this bounce rate, look at these metrics. This needs to change. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's abundantly clear as soon as you start looking at that data that something has to change, and that things aren't quite working at the moment.
No, but it's also amazing. I mean, I think one of the beauty of this that for me is super exciting is also to see how just a couple of quick fixes directly are gonna actually change the way that things are going. I think that if, how can I say it? I think a lot of people just go for vanity metrics and go for stuff that is not very worth it. Also, a lot of people are just saying like, oh, let's just change a little bit the color. I think that it's so, sometimes people are just think the website is just a website, but it's not. It's a big priority. So also I see some companies which are creating these websites and are not basing this on keywords. They're not doing the proper research. They're just saying whatever they think they need to say. So I think this is where people, like where you can actually change things. So in my case, for example, if you search for what is crypto compliance in Google, now I'm on the first page. Or best crypto AML tools, I'm on the first page. Why? Because I was able to really capture like what is it that people are looking for, and how I could actually write my website in a way that people can find me, the right people can find me. So for me, I think one of the biggest, like the best things I could tell people is really take a look at the analytics, because numbers don't lie. If you talk about tools like Google, for example, Google Analytics, they if you use the free version, it's just a sampling. So that is actually not very good, because if you get the wrong 5 samples and this just exponents whatever you have, you can come up with a really, really bad data that can actually affect the way that you were going. So I think it's important to keep clear what analytics you need to be following. And I think it all depends on the type of brand, because sometimes you don't need more traffic. Maybe you need more qualified traffic. If you're a small company, and because I think one of the biggest mistakes also is to kind of say like, I've seen a lot of people just come in and just do changes. First, you need to understand, you need to sit down to see the objectives, to create a page that, what are the things that they're, I mean, if they go into a sales call, what are the 3 or 4 things that they ask? All this should be addressed in the page in a logical order of what is more important. So, oh, do you serve crypto companies? Yes. Oh, okay, perfect. Oh, and it's actually, for example, if you're in France, you will get the local laws for France. It will be dynamic from wherever you go. Oh, and they understand the French market. Great. Oh, and they actually do this. Oh, good. And then I can book a demo, because they actually check all the dots of the things that normally someone would need to have in order to be a customer of us. So, just to sum it up, I think whoever says that it's not a converting engine, it just blows my mind away. And I think also something that marketers don't do is, when I sometimes I joined a company and the website wasn't working well, stop sending traffic, because you're just burning money, So stop sending traffic, fix things, and then resend traffic, and you're gonna see you're gonna be very happy. You're gonna be doing some of these crazy dances of how well things are working. So I think you need to stop at some point, breathe, see all the data that you can get, and then move on. But it's important, because it's the website is what people will think about you. So there's a grammar error or a spelling error, I don't know if I'm going to buy from someone who couldn't even check it, So it's the way people will perceive you.
That's what a lot of people say. It's like the first impression of your brand is so often the website. If you get that first impression wrong, then you're going to just lose them. One question I wanted to ask you is, because you've worked in lots of different sectors and companies at various different stages of their growth, have you ever encountered a situation whereby a CEO or a sales leader just doesn't believe in the kind of lead generation power of a website, for example? I've
Of
been
course.
there.
I mean,
So how
I
did
didn't.
you kind of go against this?
I didn't have it, and I cannot say names in this one. But I went to companies where they would say like, okay, so we're gonna manage your ad spending and stuff, and the CEO was saying like, yeah, they can do it from the US, and I was like, no, they cannot, because they don't understand our market. They're gonna put ads in English because they don't even speak Spanish. They're like, yeah, but the website it doesn't matter, and I'm like, what? And a very good friend of mine who actually stayed in my place in Adobe, he told me once he went to this interview, and he was going for the digital marketing manager, and the guy who was the CEO said like, yeah, we're looking for someone, a digital marketer, da, da, da. And it's like, by the way, I don't really believe in digital marketing. And my friend was like, run, but run as fast as you can. And I think, nowadays, I think it's been more than proven. I mean, I think people who don't understand this, I think they're just like living in denial, because I don't. It would be unreal, to think that it's not gonna be.
And also, I would like also to add my thoughts on what you actually said. You and Matt mentioned as well. I think a CMO has to do 2 jobs essentially wherever he joins, he or she. One, the CMO job actually to organize the marketing activities, and second, just to do some education with the actual board of management of the companies. Because actually you need to raise awareness and to evangelize in a way marketing as a profession, and digital marketing as a sub profession, let's say, of this. But actually mentioning and referring back to the website of your company, by the way, outside the website of your company, do you have any other favorite website you saw recently which were special in your opinion, in some way, which you thought, okay, this converts really well, this is really in tone and in tune with the worldwide trends?
I don't know exactly. What I can tell you, and I can tell you because, I mean, there was like this use or success case, however you want to call it, at Adobe. But for example, the Nike website, for me, it's amazing on how you can tailor and create tennis shoes that then you can actually make them become true. I love this part about having like a digital first and then it becomes physical. But when you think about this and you see how much effort is put on the back, because for us it's just click here and change the color. But when you're designing a shoe, it's not as, I mean, honestly, it's not as simple. There's so many factors and so much stuff that needs to work perfectly in order for you to have a good experience. Because when they were creating this, they were saying like, we want, when people come here and create a shoe, we want to make them feel like they're actually interacting nicely with the tool. We don't want them to have like a bug or something where the tennis shoe is like stuck and it's like So we want a seamless experience that really makes you feel like if it's not just like you're clicking on it, but you're actually designing it. So I think this is very important when you talk about marketing, because every day I think it's the bar has been risen so far that it's so hard to impress people. Nowadays, you really need to really outdo yourself in order to impress them, for them to stop and say, this is actually pretty cool, because a lot of stuff has been done. So I think when you're able to really create like a two-way experience, because I think that's the thing. Experiences now is what matters the most. And if I would say, for example, I think an experience can even beat price, because if you have had an amazing website where you can buy something, you never had a problem. If you had a problem, they will send it back. If you have a product you're buying and it's 45 euros in one, and in the one you always buy is 52, I'm sure those 7 euros are not a problem if the experience has been super great for you. I would say the same for an airline. If you're going to need to spend 140 euros in a ticket, but the airline where you have never lost your baggage, you have never lost a plane, is charging 20 more, I'm pretty sure you would go for it. Why? Because of the experience. So I think this is what makes like a website special and unique, when you can create this bond with something which is so like awkward, because you have a screen here in front of you, which is the way you interact with the world, with the digital world. But when you can actually create a real experience through this, I think that's where it's just like where people are just like, oh my god. And sometimes I see some websites and I'm like, oh, this guy really outdid it. And here I'm going to put a parenthesis, because we actually had when Matt and I worked together, we had a website, which for me, to be honest, I didn't like that much. And Matt was in charge of the whole process of redoing this. And when you see the way it was before, and you see now how much it's more like involving and how you get like more attracted, you directly see when someone actually knew what, like, did it the right way, not just creating a website, putting some menus, just not thinking it. But when all this process gets put into place, you can see that like a website was done with love. You know that it's actually been some time put into it, putting the customer journey on top of it, putting the right information, and not just like blabbling and putting everything that you can just for fun.
Yeah, I think the key thing that you said there is experience, right? Because experience in the example that you're using is like, wow, like this is a unique experience. You can interact with something. But one thing I read recently was about how the role of the CMO is becoming more like CXO, like Chief Experience Officer, and ensuring that the experience from the very first time they hear about your brand all the way through to the website, being onboarded into your platform or service, and the whole service as well, it all falls under this kind of same umbrella. And if you can get that right, then yeah, then you have the kind of the platform or the product or the service that everybody wants to use.
It all falls into place, and people, I mean, at least what I say is, if you did this right, as long as you can actually do what you say you do, you won't have a problem,
Exactly. And another trend which I observed recently in the world, as I read the world news, as I said, the power shifts so much more to the consumer. And as you mentioned, this is really important to have this omni-channel experience when you're buying something. For instance, I'm not sure if I'm really I need reassurance if I'm ordering something online and then collect it offline, really integrate the whole omni-channel experience. But coming back to the analytics aspects of it, give us, to sum up as a bottom line, which would be the three, let's say, key things or key metrics you would look in your business, in a lead generation business, let's say?
Well, for me, I think
Apart for the obvious ones,
Money,
like marketing qualified leads or whatever.
money is always the biggest KPI.
Money, yeah.
yeah, I think the key things is one, I think something that sometimes gets over, like people are overlooking it and not paying attention, is to understand your key markets. I think from a perspective of where your people are coming into your website and where are you actually finding this. So I think it's important that you understand what type of markets are coming into your website and understand the type of culture, because this can actually help you to create a specific website or tweak some of these things. Because if something I have learned running global marketing campaigns is that every country, every culture is totally different. Some people hate this, some people like this. So I think one of the things that I like is if you're able to understand where people are coming from and you can do dynamic ways of transforming this into something where it will feel like they're at home. I think this is super important. Understand the customers and really be able to tailor and do the dynamics towards them. Second one, and I think something that not a lot of people, I keep on saying, and not a lot of people take care, is bounce rates. Bounce rate is your worst enemy. And then I think if you cross, I was gonna jump into another one, but bounce rate is this thing that sometimes marketers don't even take into account, but they keep on investing and then they have like 70 or 80% bounce rate. This is terrible. It's like if people go into your store and just 80% people just run away, you know? So I think the bounce rate is something that if you're not in the right benchmarks, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be changed. And coming into this bounce rate is also, why are they not what is what is the page where people are coming in? Because sometimes, for example, I see a lot of campaigns that I get targeted a lot, obviously, and sometimes you get this email where they convince me, and then I click on it and I land on the general website. They are already sweet talk me with something like, we can actually make this better, and then I should be just put in a landing page with a form, and just like, as I mentioned, we can do this. Let me just give me just 15 minutes. So it's important to understand all the flows of how things are working and how they're kind of moving in different ways. And also something, because when you get a lot of visits, when this is very converting, it's really good and everyone's very happy, and oh, what else can we do here? But also it's good to see which pages don't get any traffic, because this is just putting more noise into your website. So sometimes you need to realize and understand the importance of the order of the website, because there's like a heat map. You can use heat maps and you can use a lot of stuff to see where people are kind of focusing, or what are these areas where you should probably use more. As we said, it's your real estate. So where do you put your prime? Where do you put your pool? Where do you put the house? Where do you put the garden? You know, what do you use more? You sleep in the garden? No. So where should the house be? So it's important that you really move around things, and you understand, because if you have a menu with products and you have product X, Y, and Z, but Z is the most successful, move Z up. It doesn't matter if it's against, I mean, just find a way to do it. So really understand and activate on this analytics. It's not just as simple as traffic, bounce rate, conversion rate. No, there's so much more, because you get the traffic that's coming in, but then you need to check what is the most, like, because sometimes I hear people say like, yeah, we have like 30 budgets in LinkedIn, Google ads, and Facebook ads. And I ask them, and how is the traffic 30 and they're like, no, LinkedIn brings us like 80%. And I'm like, dude, then 80% of your budget should be in in LinkedIn, you know, because you would get so much more. And I think a lot of people don't get all these connections. As I said, I think it takes time, and it's not, because I don't think everyone should know all this stuff. I mean, sometimes people don't know about it, but then you can just research, understand, get people who know about this, talk to them, because the most important thing, and here is, all these KPIs really change your outcome. Even if you're B2B and you're looking for leads, even if you're selling tennis shoes or airplane tickets, At the end, you want them to buy. So make sure that you use the most important things. Do A/B testing. That's the other one. And I mentioned a lot of them, and you can stop me because I can just keep on going and going. But A/B testing would be the
One,
best thing that has ever done, because people who say that they do A/B testing by using one color on June and one in July, I'm sorry, but it's just I just get mad. I want to hit myself against the wall, because how do you know it's the same people or the same month, the same thing? So when you do A/B testing, it needs to be with the right platform so that you can A/B test and you can do tests in real time with the same type of audience in the same month or week. And if you don't do these A/B tests, then you'll never know, because maybe you actually change the call to action, or you change the color, or you change the image, but it was a bad month. So there is nothing you can do.
yeah, obviously, I would say I'm 200% agreeing with you. I think the sophistication in the end is how to not make the consumer or the potential client think so much. And obviously, the challenge would be to get across the essence in as few words as possible and in a simple way as possible. I think we'll be okay to move to our third segment now, which we are when we are discussing the technology and more general aspects of technology or trends. What would you say technology plays? What role it plays in your organization at the moment? Are you using maybe any kind of piece of software which other people may or may not hear about, or what kind of technology are you using to organize yourselves maybe way better from a day-to-day kind of
Well,
business?
I mean, we're using a lot of Martech, but also I think you need to first create a proper structure. For me, I mean, we use the obvious, like a sales automation tool, marketing automation tool, CRM, and all this stuff. But I think depending on the business, it's where you get these really cool widgets and gadgets and stuff, connectors and things that basically help you automate. I think what role does tech play? I think it helps you that instead of doing 10 things in a day, you're able to do 1,000. I think the way this exists is because we want to scale, we want something. Because if you're really good at doing something, just find the process, understand it. Is there a piece of software that can help me automate this process? So instead of having 10 people sending 10 emails, I can have 10 people sending 100,000 emails. I think this is what works. And as I mentioned, when you understand how all the technology can come together and how you can create flows of information, because then instead of creating all the analytics and then just storing them in an archive that no one sees, this should be sent to the product team, this should be sent to the marketing team. We should see they should see all these analytics of seeing what is the product that they see the most, because then it's just as simple as open rates in an email, right? I think it's funny because sometimes you see these brands that they send this email selling this product that you can see that they probably have a lot of stock, because it's not a good product, but I think they just think that they want to get rid of this, so we'll put like a gray trash can bags in the subject, and you're like, what the hell? Everything will impact. It's a butterfly effect. So if you send me an email, even if it's Amazon and it's great trash can bags, the possibilities of me opening that email are slim to none. Now, if they say, I don't know, FIFA 2022 50%, I might even click on it. It's just this open rate. But if I don't open the email, then there's no possibility of me even clicking, having the click-through rate and going to their website. So I think it's about really doing smart things, because before we didn't have this. I love the time when there was no technology, because it was just like, let's launch this and then we'll see at the end of Q3 what are the results, and when we get the results, we'll either pivot somewhere and just do something different. Now you have everything, like you launch a campaign and I can just be tracking clicks in real time. So I think technology really brings the best out of the processes that are already working and helps you scale. So there's some really cool text that I have actually used, which it's just, I think sometimes like for sales, salespeople, when they have the proper sales automation tool, it just makes their life easier. Because I just think about, if I put myself in their place, you're a salesperson, you have to juggle with 80 different leads. How do you actually, how can you keep track of all this? You would need kind of like a, like a notebook, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, writing everything down. So if you have sales automation tools, you go in and it will tell you what activities need to be done today. Boom, you go through them. That's it. You don't have to leave anything for your mind or your imagination. So I think for me, I don't know. I think being able to, at least if you're in B2B, I think being able to connect a marketing automation tool with the CRM is something that really takes a lot of the stuff off the edge.
Yeah, if you were, I know you've worked in the past at kind of startup companies, so you've probably had to like build the stack from the very beginning. If you were to speak to, say, a startup like marketing, but like the first marketing hire at a startup, or even a kind of entrepreneur opening their first online business, what would you say are kind of like the top 3 or 4 pieces of Martech they should get in that first, the first few months to kind of lay the foundations for, for the technological like part of their stack?
This is a really good question, because I think one of the big errors that startups do is try to think that they're mature enough to use all the technology that is available. So when I work at Adobe, we had like a maturity model where you would have like what are the things that a company should start with that will bring valuable information for the stage where they are today. And the answer, the number one, was always analytics, because if not, you're just running in the dark. So all the numbers that you can get from this from your website, because if you're a startup, probably, I mean, everything is digital. If you're coming from a startup, I think everyone, the first thing that you do is you set up a website. Yes, you have LinkedIn and all this stuff, but what does LinkedIn and Facebook do? Send traffic to your website. So analytics is the first part, which is very important. But then I think the second one in my mind is if you have a data management platform that connects to analytics, it will help you create audiences. And this is where the good thing comes, because I think DMPs are the things that whenever like they can create these audiences. And as I mentioned, you can cross people who are interested in bikes and people who are interested in sales or cheap prices. You can cross it, and instead of just spamming these two universes, which are 1,000 people, when you cross them, you might just get 300. But these 300 will really appreciate the email. The other 700 will hate it. So how can you target to them? So analytics, DMP, and then I would say marketing automation, because I will always say analytics are great when used properly. But what is the biggest problem? That a lot of people don't use them. And I see companies creating these amazing dashboards, these amazing stuff. And then when you ask them, like, and what do you do with this? We present it like in the board meeting at the end of the month. And like, you created such valuable information that you can extract so much that your sales team could even think about, No, no, this is not. And I think sometimes, as I mentioned, when you check like even products per country, I mean, you can start doing all these dimensions. And I think when you start kind of seeing the cube and going from all the angles and finding all these small pieces of information, you shouldn't also go to the extreme, because sometimes people are so granular that it's like, oh wow, there's 3 people who looked for a TV in Madagascar. It's like, come on, man. I mean, these 3 people, I mean, let's go with 10 trends and see what's actually useful. But I think you need to be able to extract as much as you can, but don't go as granular as this, unless the business requires it. But I think you should kind of be on the 20/80 rule.
Great. In terms of your, like, this is now moving on to kind of the last like segment of the podcast, which is kind of looking forwards. In terms of your own like personal, professional kind of progression, What kind of areas of marketing or the digital marketing landscape or something else are you really focused on, knowing that it's something you need to learn about? It's going to be big in the future. You need to make sure that you have the knowledge there to kind of take advantage of
TikTok.
it.
Yeah.
You get paid for this.
um, I think that today probably I would have to learn more about analytics. I think that you never get enough. And at the end of the day, things keep changing, tools keep changing, technologies keep changing. So I think, at least for me, because when you talk about marketing automation, it's plain and simple. This is just, you put something, it automates some activities, and that's it. But you can do it in any different tool. It's going to be pretty much the same, even the same interface. But when you talk about analytics, this is pretty much the source of everything. If you're data driven, the analytics are the ones who are going to tell you where you're going. So basically, you need to see that the trend is going up, the amount of visits. I mean, because if you have a downtrend, you're doing something wrong. So I think analytics is where most of the people say they do know a lot about it. But I think it's like people who say that they know a lot about Excel, and then you put them to do like a simple formula and they're like sweating. I think a lot of people, and I can include myself, we say we know a lot about analytics, but I think there's so much more that we can learn. And there's so many use functions and things that, as we're talking, technology really brings this usefulness to you, because then you can create automatic dashboards. You don't have to kind of export information and do it. You can build reports where at the end of the month you will, I mean, I think if you understand the tools, because tools are very powerful, so if you can understand how to use them properly, it will save you so much time, and it's going to be your bible. I mean, this is where you should go back every month. You end up and you say, wow, how many users, but new users versus returning users, and how many and what was the conversion rate, and how many leads came from here, from there, blah, 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 blah. And that's where you start kind of moving and shifting budgets and doing the rest of the things that you normally do during a month.
Makes complete sense. So one thing that we want to ask everybody who comes on at the end is, if any junior marketers are listening today, or new business owners, or people who are new to kind of the digital landscape, what's kind of like a few words of advice that you would give to them in terms of how to get started and how not to be completely overwhelmed or swamped by the whole kind of busyness of the landscape as a whole?
Well, first, to listen to this podcast is going to be a good start. And then, but I think the most important part is to, like, if they're young, if they have time, really go in and do certifications and really study and get prepared. I think a lot of us, I'm not going to include you, I'm going to include just myself. But you have a new tool, you need to do onboarding, and they ask you, like, they say, oh, you should do all these courses. I just went through this and I did one course and I said, like, I can assume the rest. But then,
Exactly.
Guilty.
but then honestly, you're just using the tool. If it was 10 lessons and you just did one, maybe you're just using 10% of the usability of the product. So I tell this a lot to people. Go and take the free certification for HubSpot, or go and take the free certification for this other tool, or take whatever free certification. Why? Because all this info is going to make you very more competitive. There's so much resources out there, but get knowledgeable. Don't be lazy and just say, like, okay, I'll just read two things and okay, it's kind of this. No, really tailor and check where you want. And I think sometimes people want to go and know everything. I think it's important to create a career path, understand where are your skills and where you have weaknesses, and either you can focus into getting better into the skills where you are already like a rock star, but also don't leave behind the things where you have weaknesses, because I think we all have weaknesses, and it's really good to make sure, because you don't have to know everything. If I go into a room, I don't have to know everything. I should be supposed to know everything about my business, which I do. But at least, for example, if we talk about ad placing, I know exactly what we need to do. I know what type of ads we need to place. I know what the copy should look like. I'm going to know what type of image I want to have with a proper call to action. The place where this will land within the website, I know what it should have. The type of content. Do I know how to do a lot of this stuff? No. But I know how to get a resource that can be the best of this, because I don't want to spend time in something where I'm not like a rock star, and I'm not going to spend that much time there. So when you're in a junior position, it's good to be the rock star and know these things A to C, because you're very valuable, and at the end you're going to keep on learning things. For me, as I said, every step of my career has brought me some new experience. Every single time I've learned something about something different, new technology, new type of ways of doing things, and you work with teammates which are super successful and very talented. So make sure you extract everything that you can, because I mean the information is out there. That's the thing. Whoever wants to use it or not,
Yeah,
that's their
yeah, but
problem. So I
that's the
think
challenge.
always keep
That's
on
the challenge.
learning.
Sorry, that's the challenge in our age, because we are overwhelmed with this sphere of information, and which is constantly evolving and so on and so forth. And sometimes even for more advanced marketers, it's a challenge to identify the right source of where actually what actually content should I consume. For instance, in your case, do you have like a daily kind of habit, or even a periodic habit, or what are your sources of information, and how do you tend to educate yourself in the marketing sphere?
Well, I think a lot of the content that I consume is on LinkedIn.
Mm.
But I can tell you that now that I came to crypto, also a big part is on Twitter. I
On
think
Twitter, yeah.
Twitter, I think, and I think you can even curate. You can have two Twitters. One can be to follow whatever football players and like, be more entertainment. But I think you can also have
Are
a
you
Twitter
spying on
where
me? This is like exactly what I have. My
I
football
know.
Twitter, my crypto Twitter.
But then you could have a work one, uh, which is it can be a more curated like Twitter, or you can have a more curated source, because I read everything. I go to Reddit, I go to Quora, I go to pretty much everything. But I try to go to a lot of even like Inc.
Mm.
Magazine, Wired. Uh, but the important thing is that you stay like understanding what is coming up in technology, because as you said, there's stuff coming all the time.
Mm.
So it's good that you at least know what is happening in the world.
Yeah, I actually have one final question, just especially for you, because
Ooh.
we've talked a lot about both of these subjects. I've never talked about what brings them both together, but I saw you had a presentation not long ago about beer and crypto. So what is it? What is it that connects beer and crypto?
How does one connect beer and crypto?
Yeah, it was a presentation I did. So basically, I was kind of I'm a beer brewer, so I have my own brewery. Actually, Matt has tried some of it.
Many times.
Uh, yeah,
How is it called? Do you
yeah,
have a
it's called
brand?
Brusca.
Brusca.
Yeah,
Okay, nice.
and then one day I was going to Germany to a conference, and I was thinking like, how can I make people go and listen to me? I think I had just started in the job, and it's like they're gonna like, who is this guy? So it was called "What do beer or crypto and beer have in common?" So basically, what I said is that being in compliance, you understand how things work with crypto, but then being a brewer, one of the most important things is you have to sanitize all the pieces of equipment that you use. This is a terrible nightmare because you're done doing your beer, and then you have to clean up for like 1 hour and a half, which is absolutely terrible. So the thing is, if you don't clean up the equipment, if you don't make sure you sanitize the spoon, the glass, the every part of the equipment that you use to brew beer, there could be some bacteria coming into the beer. It can get infected, and if it's good, it will taste horrible. If it's bad, the bottles can actually explode, and there's more and more bad things. And in terms of crypto, when you don't have a proper compliance AML tool to help you not get money that comes from money laundering, from terrorism, from sanctioned lists, if you let these coins come into your crypto business, the only problem, it will just bring problems, because then the regulators are going to be on top of you. You could get in trouble. These coins could get frozen. If it comes from a hack, the coins will be actually frozen by the exchange. So it's important that you keep your business clean. So I think that's the way where I see the two of them combining, because both, like, if you don't have like a clean house, you run the risk of running into trouble.
And I can personally highly recommend Brewska beer. I've been the guinea pig for many a sample.
I'll have to taste this. Do I have to come to New Mexico? To where are you based now?
Luxembourg.
To Mexico City to taste it? Luxembourg. Do I have to come to
Yeah,
Luxembourg
but
to
you're
taste
close,
it?
so you can come.
Okay, good. Thanks. All right, I think we've hit the end of our show. Anyways, Ignacio, many thanks for joining the Website Intelligence podcast. Hopefully, we can chat soon. We can even see each other in person, maybe, because even now we will have many initiatives in Europe, but also in the US, and we hope to see each other in person as well. Many thanks again, guys. You know where to find us, from YouTube to Spotify to Apple Podcasts to all the podcast carriers worldwide. And keep in touch. Thank you
Thank you,
very
Matt.
much.
Thank you, Dragos. Have a nice
Cheers,
day.
Ignacio. Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.